We're going to be zooming in on some earnings on a consumer discretionary space. It's time to hit social media for cash tags. We'd like to welcome in Megan Brantley, VP of Research at LikeFolio.com, and welcome back Fast Market contributor Jenny Horn to take a look at Dave & Buster's.
Dave & Buster's. So before the break, we were all discussing who has actually been to a Dave & Buster's, and Alex and I have not. Kevin has.
I do know where it is, though.
We do live by one.
But mine, I've been to a Dave & Buster's, but I have drank beer with other parents while children played at Dave & Buster's. I've never spent any money on games other than giving children money for games. So that's
You've been in one, though. That's more.
I have walked in the door, though.
You have. So Megan, have you been in one? I'm just curious because this is separating our age, obviously.
No, I haven't. I was going to ask you guys the same thing. I was doing this research, and I don't know where your guys' Dave & Buster's is located, but ours is in the mall, and it just feels a little bit weird to go to the mall and eat and drink and play arcades. I don't know. I don't know.
And malls aren't exactly the hottest spot right now in town, so.
No, exactly.
I really don't have much discretion where I go to have a beer as long as it's cold and my children are playing in another area. Well, this was years ago. They're all older now, but this is when I did that. I was really not I was just fine with where it was as long as they were playing and I was having a beer.
You have a very good point, but this is a stock that they hit all-time lows the first week of August. This is, I think, the epitome of a consumer discretionary when the markets aren't doing well. Neither is Dave & Buster's. So I'm curious to see what your data shows, Megan.
So when we look at Dave & Buster's, we're listening for a lot of things. We're listening for people talking about going to get a beer, or if they're going to play games, or if they're going to watch a game and eat wings and things like that. And what we see is it's relatively flat year over year. It's not this surging PI strength per se, but you can see the stock was punished horribly after their last earnings. I think they was a pretty big disappointment. And so this is actually setting up a little bit of divergence for us, not in the fact that, PI is just, purchase intent is just killing it, but more of the fact that the stock is maybe a little bit oversold.
Yeah, Megan, this missed on earnings last quarter, which caused a pretty big dip, but it didn't miss by a lot. Although we're in an environment now where you really can't miss. If you miss, they're going to punish you. But this is one of those instances that we talk about a lot on this show. No matter what the stock is, at some point I want to be short, at some point I want to be long. This looks like a dip that has gone a little too far for me.
Yeah, I think that there's a solid thesis for that. I think it's, people are still going to Dave & Buster's. The purchase intent is not falling off, but, there's not that strength. I think that they're showing growth because they're opening new stores, and so they're increasing their revenue, but they're struggled a little bit last quarter with comp sales. I think it was down 0.3%, and that's what really dinged them. They also lowered their guidance a bit, but like you said, I think it could be a little bit oversold.
Yeah, Megan, what you pointed out was exactly what I was just going to say, and that's their comp sales did fall 3%, and what was expected was actually 1.6% growth. So that was kind of a huge metric that really hurt them. And I have to say, not a ton of noise on social media today. I did learn a few things since I've never been in one about people's preferences, and you can get chicken wings, I saw, at Dave & Buster's. So that's a good thing. So our first tweet says, Dave & Buster's held that support line, questionable to hold through earnings. So actually, it's interesting. If you pull up a 5-year weekly, you can see this kind of support line at 37.44. This is kind of an interesting chart. I mean, what do you guys make of this support line? Because right now they're at about, $42?
I mean, this takes you back to really mid-2015 when it got up to this level. So that's significant. Especially, I see this company made $1.13 a share last quarter. So if the first thing that jumps out at me is, a PE ratio of 14. That's relatively low. It's certainly not a PE ratio you have to be afraid of, that's for sure.
But something maybe to keep in mind going into the earnings post-market tomorrow.
But Megan, if we tie this to your data a little bit here, you kind of mentioned consumer purchase intent mentions kind of going sideways over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Kind of what the stock's done as well. If you take out basically this move, after this move downwards, this 39 level's basically been the level we've been at since 2015, as Kevin mentioned. Does that, when you factor that in, does that make you a little bit weary of this name going into this earnings?
Yeah, this definitely isn't riveting data. This isn't this big reveal of, oh, well, this is such a strong signal. It's just, if our data is leaning anyway, it's that the stock may be a little bit oversold, that purchase intent hasn't fallen that much, especially not to the degree that the stock has in the last quarter. I think happiness is another good indicator to look at when you look at them, and their happiness is above 80%, which I think that that's positive. I mean, I would hope that people who are going to eat, drink, and play are going to be happy about their experience, but that is good for Dave & Buster's that we're not seeing any shifts in consumer sentiment either.
No, and Megan, we don't have a whole lot of insight like you guys would into kind of that space, what a typical happiness number would be. But, 80%'s got to be as high of a happiness number as we've heard for any company when we've talked to you about it.
Yeah, it's a really high number. I think that people have fun. This is in the experience sector. Other competitors that we're watching, a lot of people like to compare this to a Topgolf. We're definitely not seeing the type of growth out of Dave & Buster's as we are, for example, of a Topgolf. However, we're also not seeing an extreme struggle.
People were calling this the adult Chuck E. Cheese, which I thought was funny. Another thing I saw.
I've been to one of those too, by the way.
Okay, I've been to one of
They
those
have beer
too.
at those as well, just for the record.
Yes, and they have
Full disclosure.
They probably have chicken wings at there too. But what's funny is on social media today, actually, I saw so many people talking about going on dates at Dave & Buster's. That was like the primary thing I saw. Is everyone's really excited to go on a date at Dave & Buster's.
Here's the question. Now we're getting into the good stuff. If you go to Dave & Buster's for a first date, is there a second date? That's really the question that we're asking here.
No.
I don't think so.
There you go.
No,
now we're getting to the bottom of it.
We are on the same page. So our next tweet says, Dave & Buster's low-risk pre-earnings straddle plus strangle, closing before earnings with almost no downside risk, but potential for profit if the price moves. So actually, if you look at the risk profile of what they're talking about here, it's pretty interesting again. And what I really want to know is, could this be a growth play going into earnings? Because this is a name that has the ability to move.
I don't know if it's growth as much as it's just, are they going to bounce back from a bad quarter with a good quarter, right? I mean, this stock had got killed a quarter ago. And what Megan said, the data in terms of social media hasn't really backed off at all. So hopefully this is one of those, you're looking for a recovery in this name.
Yeah, and a trade like this is really playing for a large move one way or another. So you're looking for either a major miss or a huge surprise to the upside with something like this. A move that would be kind of unchanged would really not fare well for this kind of a strategy.
And I believe the earnings are tomorrow after the bell, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow after the bell.
Right.
I'm like, what day is it? It's like, it feels like it's Tuesday already.
But Megan, then just to kind of tie it all together here, before these earnings tomorrow, obviously we won't have a chance probably to talk to you about this again. Is this, as you said, you're kind of weary of it, is this one where maybe you wait for an opportunity after, or is this one if you wanted to get involved on the bullish side, maybe you just do it in a smaller size?
Yeah, I think that that's smart. If you want to take a bullish play, definitely be risk defined and know that you're playing an oversold thesis here. But, they are opening new stores. I think that they're opening like 15 or 16 through the rest of the year. So it's something to watch to see if they can execute and, continue to grow their revenue.
All righty.
So growing with a 14 PE.
And hopefully they're moving out of malls. That's a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, we'll find out tomorrow after the close. Megan, really good stuff as always. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, guys.